Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, Stop Shitting All Over Yourself. And I'm going to start the podcast by not shitting all over myself. I have my friend here, Ashley Robyn, who wrote a fabulous, fabulous book called Maybe We're All Diamonds. And I invited her on this podcast, and we dove right in talking like right away. And I was like, oh, wait, let me hit record because, we're going to have some good shit. So I hit record. We talked for 20 minutes. And then I look down and I see the button says record. And I'm like, you know what? That's weird. Shouldn't it be having like a number on it telling me how long we've been recording? And we literally hit some great shit, which we will hit again. But I like Ashley. I like the way you're looking at this. The universe is saying that was just meant for us.
Yeah. Well, isn't it still Mercury retrograde? Like that seems like a very Mercury retrograde thing to have happen.
It is very, very. Well, okay. So, all right. So now, I'm not entirely sure what we already said, but what I'm going to say here is this: is that I found Ashley because she was on. There was an Instagram video. I'd literally never heard of her before in my life. She just shows up randomly as a video. She's recording a phone call, which that I thought it was a really important phone call to record because it was you having a conversation with your boss, and that she'll share the story afterwards. But what I thought was important about it is it articulated a kind way of setting boundaries, of sharing what you deserve, of owning your awesome without like being a jerk about it, right? Like, I mean, you, by the way, you were being awesome. You were being great. You were awesome. But it also demonstrated, I think, the truth behind a lot of corporate language about, hey, we're all a family. Hey, and I found it to be a really just telling video. So, I would love, love, love for you to introduce yourself and sort of tell us a little bit about that video and how we met. Like, I think that's like really a cool thing.
Yeah, I think this is a way more beautiful place to yeah, you found this video, and I will say this first and foremost. I cannot say enough. If you feel the need to record conversations with your bosses or a partner or any kind of relationship because you're being gaslit and you need to go back to it later, just to like remember and think that you're not crazy and know that it actually happened, that's like such a red flag that you're in a toxic relationship. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. I was working for a company that I loved. I adored the work that I was doing, and I really liked the team that I was working for until I didn't. Like, there were certain things that started to happen that were just too much to ignore. And I wrote a book about leaving toxic relationships personally, that was coming out in a few weeks. And I was seeing that my personal life and this book that I just wrote about finding my voice and leaving these toxic relationships, I wasn't able to live out that lifestyle in my career because I was working in a really unhealthy culture at work. And I guess you could call it a conviction. I knew that I had a month or two maybe until my book was being released. And I just thought, I can't, in good conscience, put out a book where I'm telling people that I found my voice and I have freedom to be who I truly am and that I'm not allowing toxic relationships when I'm working in this environment and feeling the way that I'm feeling about this job and just feeling such despair about it. I mean, they reduced our salaries across the board by 20%. And I continued to stay there for an additional 6 months, doing more work.
With the reduced salary?
With the reduced salary, doing more work than I initially was because people were leaving. Mm-hmm. And as our team shrunk, I had to take on more duties. In January, I had received permission along with the 20% less pay. I said, I'm a single mom and I don't have family that I can call to pay my car payment, for example. If I don't have it, it's on me and I have to figure that out. And I'm not willing to put myself in a position to be struggling financially. It's just not, I did that when I was married. That's one of the reasons I got divorced. One of the many reasons I got divorced. So I didn't want to put myself in that situation. And I thought, I love what I do here. I believe in the work that I'm doing and I love the clients that we're working with. I want to continue on. So can I supplement with some freelance on the side? Well, by May, I'll say this, by May, I was feeling like I need to speak up because they keep asking me to do more work and I'm not hearing anything about getting my salary back anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I've picked up enough freelance work that I'm actually making more freelancing than I am working for this full-time job. So it gave me a little bit of confidence to be able to say, I'm feeling convicted about putting out a book that I'm not living true to in my professional life. It's time for me to speak up for myself and to ask for what I'm worth. So I came to them 2 weeks before the book released, after many weeks of pushback on multiple levels on my side. Just said, you're proposing that I do more work and you're making big promises to new clients that I don't feel like we can keep. I don't have the bandwidth to keep those promises. We're a team of 2 now. How are we going to make that happen?
Mm-hmm.
On the department that I was in, we were a team of 2. And so I was told, we hear you and we want to keep you here. Your fingerprints are all over this company. We want to keep you here. So what could we do? And I told them, here are the things that I see. These are the things that I would like to be doing. And this is my solution. And so they said, we'll come up with 2 different job descriptions and we'll bring those to you so that you can choose which one you want to have. And a week later, they came to me and I was expecting to see 2 different jobs. And instead I got, we can't afford you, so we're going to let you go. And that, like me asking for what I was worth and saying I'm not willing to give you any more of my time for free and take time away from my family, take time away from, just social life, friends. Like I was working nonstop because I was consulting, because I was still full time.
Mm-hmm.
I just was working nonstop. And so I was tired of burnout and I was tired of it. Like I was ready to move on and I didn't want to be the one to do that. I wanted them to have to make that decision because it's not fair to force someone out by making them make that call when they love what they do and they're good at what they do and they've never received any negative feedback. So if they can't afford me, then they need to tell me that. Otherwise, I'm gonna do everything I can because I want to fix this problem.
Yeah.
Until I realize that's toxic, right? Like that's toxic.
That's the thing is I'll keep trying. But everybody has to be on board with the trying and someone has to be filling your cup back, right? Because otherwise you're just constantly emptying it out. Um, it's so interesting you say that because one of the things that I've noticed happens consistently in big or small companies is that you've got this great company, everybody feels like a family, everybody's feeling great, and then at some point, typically the pressure or there's and you talked about it a little bit in our first version of this. So I'm sort of guiding. Yeah, so I'm taking you back in there because I loved that part of the conversation that you had. Is what is it that you think happens in these spaces where everything's great and then suddenly it's not?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest takeaway from this whole experience has really been just that people can lead any company. Anybody can lead any company if things are going well because there's not a lot that you have to do decision-wise. You just keep doing what you were doing and and you can kind of go on autopilot, I think. But it's really difficult to be a good leader when things get hard, like revenue being down. That's a huge issue for any company.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when your leadership skills really get put to the test. And if you're putting a giant word like empathy in your mission statement, and you're not treating people with empathy in those hard times, there's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a really big problem. And to me, that was the like biggest indicator, is like when the employees are asking if they need to take out personal loans to give to the company so that they can keep their jobs. When the employees are mentally just so like broken by the system that they're in that they don't feel like they can speak up safely, and that just crushes their souls. And I can't get behind that if you've got mission statement with empathy in it. Doesn't seem right.
You know, I feel like a lot of companies tend to have their mission statements, you know, the ones that are related to caring, empathy, alleviating suffering, all those things, right? It's about the client, right? Or the person on the outside, and not so much on, you know, and I think though that, like, you know, because I've had a very similar experience, and it's interesting because most of my toxic relationships in my life have been work related. It's really weird. Like I tend to gravitate towards that. And and you know what I found is that they're very, like, they care, like you said, they care about everybody right at the beginning, and then when the going gets tough, there's like a scarcity panic that kind of sets in, and it's almost like a child flailing, right? Where it's almost that, where the person who, the toxic person, because typically if you have a boss, or if you have someone who is like done the work and who is actually empathetic, then it's going to be a very different experience from you know, a boss who is, like, say, a narcissist, you know, masquerading, you know, in empathy's clothes, right? And so, and then now, like, things get hard and the mask falls off, and now suddenly it's like you see someone's true colors. So I think, and I think, like you said, money makes it easier for people to be nice, or for people to ignore things that are bad, because you're making so much money, it'll allow you to look the other way, even as an employee, if the circumstances aren't great, because you've got the whole golden handcuffs. And you mentioned the last time we talked that you were actually writing another book on this, and so, because like it moved you. So tell me, I'd like to know a little bit more, because like the hardest part for somebody who's in a toxic workplace is that they don't know that they're in a toxic workplace. They think this is just how it is, and they're also being gaslit, and capitalism is set up so that the community will regulate itself and like keep everybody believing that everything's fine. So you mentioned earlier one of the flags is, you know, if you feel like you need to record things, which admittedly is like, at that point, if you were at that point, there were like several points along the way where you were sort of, so I'm curious to know, you know, what are some of those things along the way as you write your next book, where people earlier on may be able to identify that this might not be a healthy place to be, or healthy for them.
Yeah, I think, well, you have to be really sensitive to those feelings, and trust them when you're picking up on that stuff. So I think, like, for me, a big red flag is saying that you're about something and then not actually following through. So if company values or mission statements aren't aligning, and that's already a big question mark because the culture doesn't reflect it. People not feeling safe to speak up and ask questions, like thoughtful questions that show that they really care about the company and the forward motion of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Being told that that's not actually a priority, or that they're overstepping by asking, or I think probably being told. I think a lot of it just keeps coming back to gaslighting. I'm pausing to like revise in my head, like, what is it? And it really is just like, it's a gaslighting culture, and it's like wanting resources, being told we want to support your professional development, and then asking for resources and being told no. It's
Yeah.
being told you're going to move into this promotion and this is the position you're going to have, and then a white man coming and taking that job from you instead, and you're still here. Like,
Yeah.
there's being held back, feeling silenced, feeling like you can't get the support you're asking for support. You can't get the resources you need to do your job better, but they expect you to pull rabbits out of hats all day long, and there's nowhere to find these rabbits.
I think others, like as you're talking about it, I'm thinking of like some of the other red flags that have popped up, where it's like, I think where people are constantly being asked to be team players and take on more work because there's high turnover, right? And so now people are having to take on more work, but there's not more pay. There's also no end in sight for the more work. So now you have and these people then tend to get burned out. Um, I think you said this earlier. I actually want to come back to that because I think it's so important. Is like trust your feelings, because like one of the things that my wife said this, so this is really interesting. So when we're my wife and I are both transitioning, and she uses she her pronouns. Her pronouns are she her, and when she talks about people misgendering her, she said to me, it's really funny because she didn't used to have be very like she didn't buy into the woo very much now, but now she like really buys into the woo, which is great. We have all these woo conversations now. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. But early on, she said that you can tell when someone's trying. So like even if someone messes up, you can tell when someone's trying. And up until she said that to me, I had also been able to tell when someone's trying. But I always felt silly saying, "Listen, I know if you're trying and I know if you're not," right? Because it's that, but you can tell, right? And it made me realize that so many of us have these superpowers to be able to sort of just tell if someone is being disingenuous, if someone is mistreating us because of a physical characteristic, or we know, right? And but then we gaslight ourselves, or if we bring it up, they will gaslight us. And so I want to go back to what you said earlier, which is really that if you have a gut feeling, or if you have your spidey senses are tingling, don't gaslight yourself into thinking you don't have spidey senses. You have spidey senses.
Yeah, you do. And it's really important to trust your intuition. It's there for a reason, and I think we silence it so often in the name of keeping the peace and not rocking the boat. But it's a gift from God to have that. And I think that, you're absolutely right. Like, people, if people are making you leave a situation and you feel icky about it, there's a reason you feel icky about it. If you leave any situation feeling drained in a negative, awful way, that's your red flag that it's not a good fit for you.
So what now? It's interesting because like as we think about that, like for not you and I were both in. We talked about this last time that we've both been really fortunate, have had the privilege of being able to build that confidence from making money from freelancing or doing other things that built a foundation under us that allowed us to take some of those next steps. So I'm curious, like if someone is in that position and they're like, shit, I don't have that. How do I move into like some sort of different space? And I guess this is going to go back sort of to your book, because as you start to realize you're in a toxic situation, how do you begin to plan for your eventual departure from it, whether it's work or personal?
Well, you mentioned human design earlier, and I think it was interesting because I didn't know this about myself until I found out that I was a reflector. But I think it took me a long time to make that decision. Because of the type of person I am, I want to see all of the information. I want to know without a shadow of a doubt that whatever I'm choosing to do is fully informed and I have the right information. And so it takes me longer, I think, to recognize and to leave those toxic relationships. Not because I don't, like, I know that they're not right for me, but it's because I want to make sure that I did everything I could on my side, that my side of the street is clean and that I have done what I need to do. And so I wait and I gather the data and I take the notes and I record the videos and I have the history laid before me so that I can see I showed up here, here, here. This is how they showed up. And this is the pattern. Now the pattern looks toxic. Now I have confirmed that the pattern is toxic. Now I know that it is time to move on. So in the case of the job that I was laid off from, like 2 or 3 weeks before I got laid off, I told some friends, if they don't get it together by June 30th, I'm gonna jump without a net. I'm just gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they called me on June 9th, they said your last day is June 30th. So the universe is hilarious, and I hate that I had to feel like, the panic and the blindsided feeling of being let off, even though I knew it was coming. Like I didn't know it was coming that day. I thought I would be more in control of it. It didn't happen how I wanted. That's very upsetting. It's very disorienting to be laid off. But I had to have that experience. I had to have that experience because I think, number one, it really helps me to relate to other people who have gone through those really painful things if I have also experienced them. So in my book, I write about divorce, walking away from toxic parents, a miscarriage. Now I've experienced being laid off. Like, these are big life things that happen to people, and they're painful for people. And now that I have this experience and I have found a way out for myself, I feel better equipped to talk to other people and to encourage them on their path.
It's interesting in your book you do, and I recommend everyone get the book. Everyone just definitely get the book. It's like so good, and as I was reading it, I felt like, so it was really interesting because, like, first of all, I feel like you're telling me a story like in front of me, so like we're talking, and as certain things happen, I'm like, oh no, girl, don't do that, and oh no, stop, just because you see it happening, and once you've actually been through the experience, of that kind of toxicity, you can pick up on all the signs and you're like, oh yeah, I see it there. I see it there. And, I think what was really great about your book is that it kind of, if someone reads it and they're in a toxic relationship right now, they'll be able to pick up on those signs like right away. Like, because they're very obvious once you know what they are. But then if someone is, and then of course that starts their journey. But like, I think we talked earlier about how lonely it is to be in those relationships because you're gaslit by the person that is supposed to be taking care of you or is supposed to be providing you with something. Either it's a salary, it's safety, it's whatever it is. But honestly, when a boss or an employer is not living up to that side of it, like they're supposed to provide you with a safe working environment. So like they are not living up to their side of the bargain. I think you have such a poignant roadmap for how to get out, and like what you did, and you're very raw about it. So we didn't get this on this recording, so now I'm gonna ask the question because your book is raw and it's like, and it's honest, and but it's also like it takes you to that place where you're like, okay, I can do this too. Were you scared writing it?
I was terrified. I was terrified. I think, like, well, for one, writing a memoir is a very personal experience. You're really sharing a lot of the things that you maybe don't want people to know. Like, there's a lot of ugliness that I had worked most of my life to keep under the rug and to not let people see. But it's a bit of a feeling exposed, I guess. But I think that the best thing that I did for myself was write that, because I started just writing for my own healing, but then when I realized this may be helping other people too, that just made it worth so much more. All of the heartbreak and the grief and the pain and the crying on the bathroom floor, like all of that was worth something, because now I have something that maybe will help other people. And so fear exists always, but you move through it because you know that you have something to offer, something to give, someone to help, and it's a work of art. It's a work of art. It's like you do painting. You do painting. I write books, and this was my first one, and I learned a lot, and I feel like I learned a lot about myself. I think everyone should write a book.
I'm writing my book. I'm writing a book.
Yes.
Yeah, I joined a tiny book course recommended to me by Judy Harrington, and I'm writing a tiny book. So this weekend is buckling down, and like the purpose is to write like a short book, get it out quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about doing that, just so I can say what you just did. You said, "Oh, my first book," and I'm like, "Whoa, we're all first book. Now you're writing your second book." I'm like, "That's what happens when you write a book. You're like, I can write a second and a third. I want to do that."
Yeah.
I'm curious, how do you feel now that it's published? Like, I mean, because first of all, dude, you wrote a book. Congratulations. That's fucking amazing.
Thank you. I don't know if I've celebrated it fully.
My wife has been telling me for years that I don't take victory laps. And she's like, you never take a victory lap. And it's part of my trauma response, which is that, what's next? You just always got to be doing something. Part of it is because as long as you're doing something, nothing bad will happen. I'm not entirely sure that that's actually true, but it's what I feel inside. So let's go with it. But like she really has taught me the value of taking a victory lap. And it has absolutely like made such a difference. Did you, so now I feel like we're gonna have to have you on like in another 6 months and like see what you did to celebrate. Has your life changed at all? Like, do you find that random people message you, or like how has your life changed since writing the book?
It hasn't changed all that much, I guess. Like, I feel like I'm always honored when someone will reach out and say how the book has touched them or helped them through something. It's been a few months now, and I still get those messages regularly. I had someone that said, like, thank you for writing this, because it's helping me to realize I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not the crazy one.
Yeah.
So I really feel like I set out to help one person, and I've already exceeded that number. So
I can say two for sure. That person who messaged you and me, and everyone else who's no doubt also messaged you. Because I think really the hardest part is finding a mirror, right, to be able to see what it is. Because it's so hard to see it when you're in it and you think you are crazy. Like that's really the key, is thinking that you are crazy, and like getting to a space where you're like, I feel I can validate myself. I don't need someone else to validate that this is happening to me. Like, I am enough validation. Do you find, like, I find sometimes that I forget that I've done that work, and I'll like start to seek out, do you ever find that you like start to slip and you're like, oh no, wait, I did all this work, and then you find your way back quicker?
Yeah. Yes. I think that, if we're talking about like just recognizing what's healthy,
Yeah.
I think I have very much condensed the time frame. So like it took me 14 years in a marriage to realize that this is unhealthy for me and I need to get out.
Yeah.
With this work situation, once it started getting bad, it only took me 9 months. So look at the growth there.
That's a lot of growth. That's the great part. And
Yeah.
the next time, because here's the thing, right, is that the people are still going to be there. The situations are still going to happen. Like, life is life. but like now we're able to like see the signs sooner and sooner and sooner till, you know, at some point, you know, you get to the point where you've done it enough to where you're just like, oh yeah, I know you. I know you. No, thank you.
I've been there before.
So all right, so I would love to know. So my audience, first of all, I'm going to put the link to your book in here because like the book is amazing. Everyone should read it. But you also have a lot of other fun stuff. So where can people find you? I'd actually also like it if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about. You said you're a freelancer. And I'd love to connect people with the resources that they need. So maybe before we dive into how they can find you, tell me about your freelance business. What do you do?
Well, I am freelance writing mostly and consulting for people like social media marketing, that sort of thing. It's it's fine. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out after having been laid off. So I love the people that I get to work with right now. I'm really grateful for that work. I don't know where that's going.
Right. Hey, dude, I love it. Just do the
Yeah,
thing and we'll see where it goes.
it'll
So
be.
let's say someone's like, dude, you've told me enough to where I'm curious about, I may want to hire you to do something, right? How would they just send you an email or find you on Instagram at
Maybe ask that Instagram.
Share Love Everywhere, right?
That's it. Yep.
That's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was absolutely amazing. I'm so glad that you have your voice back and that everybody is going to get to hear from you. You are absolutely fabulous. Are there any parting words you'd like to leave for my friends?
I'm just really grateful that you've had me in this time. I'm so glad that I got a friend in you, and it's been really just a huge honor to be here with you today, and I'm just grateful for knowing you.